Hello and welcome to this episode of Shatterdice Reviews, and today's board game review is
Human Interface: Be a Better Human by Post-Industrial Games. Human Interface is a game for 1 to 4 players set in a dystopian cyberpunk world where players will be taking on the role of a cyberpunk gang trying to break out of a black site prison after a heist gone wrong. The game comes with a plethora of map tiles and enemies, as well as a narrative campaign with multiple endings, based on decisions you make during the campaign. If that gets your Chrome buzzing, let's take a closer look and see if this is one you want to hack into. Human Interface is a fully cooperative game, and the enemies are controlled by a simple AI. When player characters take actions, they will make noise, and enemies will move towards the most noise and attack any characters they see. This AI may sound familiar to Zombicide players, but unlike Zombicide, noise tokens can be manipulated a lot more in Human Interface to send enemies away from you. So let's take a look at how the game plays. You start by setting up the board as described in the scenario briefing. The components for a mission are quite simple. You have the various tokens, the weapon and cyber gear decks, and you also have a deck of adrenaline cards and can-do cards. More on these later. Now it's time to pick your character. But be aware, not all scenarios feature all characters. In fact, the scenarios feature fixed characters, and so you won't necessarily be playing the same character for each scenario. A character card looks like this. Down this side, we have 3 main attributes: skill, speed, and health. Then on this side, we have the mental skill attributes, and at the bottom of the card, any special abilities and their starting gear, along with these armor values listed here. Once you have your chosen character, take their starting equipment. Equipment has a variety of uses listed on the card, but weapons all have a very similar function. Their range tells you how many squares they can shoot, and damage, of course, is how much damage they inflict. Then, in this space here, any special traits that weapon has. Let's take a quick look at how combat works, as unlike most dungeon crawlers, Human Interface does not use dice. Remember that deck of can-do cards we mentioned earlier? This is the replacement for the dice. When you make an attack, you will draw a card from the deck and add the value printed on the card to your physical skill attributes. Before we go any further, we need to take a look at reactions. What sets Human Interface apart from many dungeon crawlers is its reaction system. That and its hacking phase, but we will cover that later. Each character may perform a reaction when attacked by an enemy. There are 3 types of reaction: fast attack, take cover, and dodge. Let's take a look at fast attack first. When an enemy makes its attack, and you declare a fast attack reaction, the enemy draws its can-do card and adds it to its physical skill. Then you will do the same, with one key difference. You receive a -3 penalty to your total. If, however, you score equal to or higher than the attacker, you automatically dodge the enemy attack and instead score a hit on them. Next is the take cover reaction. This can only be performed if you are able to move your character's miniature 1 space and end out of the attacker's line of sight. So this is a very situational reaction, but can be an effective strategy to avoid multiple attacks. To perform a take cover reaction, draw a can-do card and add it to your speed skill. If the result is equal or higher, the attack misses, and you move your miniature 1 space out of sight. Both fast attack and take cover reactions may only be performed once per turn. The final reaction, dodge, however, can be performed as many times as you wish. Dodge is your basic defense against an enemy attack. Draw and add a can-do card to your speed value, but this time you gain +3 to your total, making dodge the best chance of avoiding damage, but lacking the tactical flexibility of fast attack or take cover. Whenever a player attacks an enemy, that enemy always uses dodge. This does mean firefights can become a prolonged affair, as the +3 modifier makes it hard for both player characters and enemies to land a hit. That's it for reactions. Now let's go back to that example attack from earlier. After you have your total score for the attack by drawing the can-do card, the enemy miniature will perform a dodge, drawing a can-do card and adding the value to its speed skill. If its speed is equal to or higher than your attack value, then your attack misses. If your attack value is higher, you score a hit and apply the damage listed on the weapon card. When it comes to the can-do cards, it's also worth noting some of them give you options to reduce the card value to gain some other benefits, such as gaining system resource tokens used in hacking or adrenaline, allowing you to activate special abilities. This brings us onto the other deck, the adrenaline deck. Adrenaline cards, much like can-do cards, have a number printed on them, representing your adrenaline points. Adrenaline points are used to activate the more powerful abilities on your character card, the ones in orange. However, some of the adrenaline cards also have special bonus abilities that you can use them for instead, such as forcing a door open. You also gain an adrenaline card each time you deal damage, and so you will find your adrenaline total stacks up quickly. But that's not all good. If you ever have more than 8 adrenaline, you will start taking damage from the stress on your system. So make sure to spend adrenaline regularly. And that's the basics of combat. A very simple but effective system. Now, a quick look at moving. When you perform a move action, you move a number of squares equal to your speed value. You will receive 2 action points on your turn, and most of these will be spent moving and attacking. But be aware that after performing an attack action, your turn ends, even if you have unspent AP. Some actions, such as opening doors, do not cost any AP. All of this attacking, moving and reacting takes place in what is called the real world phase. This is technically the second phase of a turn, but I wanted to cover that first, as it is the bulk of the gameplay. The first phase in a turn is the cyber warfare phase. This is played by only the team's hacker character. It is essentially a card-based minigame that represents the hacking that is so prevalent in cyberpunk settings. The hacker uses system resource tokens to allow them to play cards and successfully hack or defend in the cyberspace of this game. The hacker has this dashboard in front of them, and a deck of cyber warfare cards. These represent computer programs and come in 2 main types: offensive, coded in red, and defensive, coded in yellow. Each program has an install cost, a running cost, and a strength value. The install cost is how many system resource tokens you must spend to play the card, and the running cost is paid for any cards on your dashboard at the start of your turn. The program's strength value is added to a can-do card value when resolving a cyber attack. The main use of hacking is to gain control of the colour-coded terminals found on the map. When you control a terminal, you may unlock any doors that match its colour. So how does a cyber attack work? If the hacker wishes to perform a cyber attack, you will play out the hacking phase. If not, they skip this phase. Let's suppose they do. Select the virus or worm from your hand you wish to upload. Draw a can-do card and add it to the program's strength to get your total. Now, draw a card from the enemy cyber warfare deck. If it is a yellow defensive program, add a can-do card to its program strength. If it matches or exceeds your score, it blocks the cyber attack. Sometimes this triggers bonuses, detailed at the bottom of the card here. Where it gets interesting is if the enemy AI draws a red card, an attack card. In this case, the AI will first try to defend your attack, which it does by drawing a can-do card. The value on that card is its total score. If you are particularly unlucky and this manages to block your cyber attack, it immediately retaliates with its offensive program it drew. Now your hacker must defend in the same way with a defensive program. If the defense is failed, then the enemy card is placed on your dashboard, and each turn you must pay the running cost of that card until you can purge it from the board. Well, that's enough on the gameplay details. Let's get to the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good. Human interface has some really good points. The can-do cards are an interesting replacement for dice. The fact that some cards allow you to treat the card value as a lower number in exchange for some other benefit gives it this nice little push your luck element too. The minigame hacking in the form of the cyber warfare phase is also a great way of simulating all those viruses and firewalls in cyberspace. Honestly, a lot of the base gameplay is pretty good once you get your head round it, which brings us to the bad. Well, the rulebook is frankly awful. The game was made by a Polish company, I think, so any language errors I can forgive, but the layout of the rules is pretty bad. Stuff feels splattered all over the place. Some rules seem to repeat themselves, and others seem to be barely explained at all. I believe there are revised rulebooks available online, but the physical ones that come in the box were awful. The game also has a few really bizarre rule choices. The +3 bonus when taking the dodge action is just plain silly. This bonus makes some characters impossible to hit, and worse still, when you do hit your target, you have to draw a hit location. Each hit location has an armor value, and if the armor value is higher than your weapon damage, you do no damage. So even hitting the targets sometimes winds up as a failure. This and the inability to perform more than one attack on a turn are 2 of the worst rules in the game. It drags down the fast-paced, adrenaline-filled violence. that Cyberpunk is known for, and turns it into a tedious affair of just trying to do damage. Then there is the campaign. By all rights, this campaign should be fantastic. It is a very simple escape mission, where the entire campaign is the escape, but it has many branching paths and 4 completely different final missions and endings based on what you did through the course of the campaign. Unfortunately, it is completely brought down by its fixed roster of playable characters, meaning any of the expansion characters you may have, or that were included in the Kickstarter for this game, are basically useless, unless you ignore the campaign plots and swap them out for whoever you want. As if that's not bad enough, some of the missions will feature less than 4 characters, and I don't want to be telling a player invested in the campaign to sit this one out because their character isn't in this mission. Okay, enough bad, let's look at the ugly. Firstly, the map tiles in this game are pretty bland, which is not what I expect when I think of Cyberpunk. But what is truly ugly is just how big those tiles are. Each square is a whopping 2 inches by 2 inches, making a 4x4 tile a massive 8 inches by 8 inches. The game absolutely hogs the table with some of its layouts, and your miniatures just feel like they are from a different game. It's also pretty ugly to get all the extra content you can buy and not really be able to use it because it just isn't used in the campaign. You can use this in a skirmish mode, which admittedly is probably the better way to play this game. Overall, I really wanted to like this game. There's a good system in there, it's just bogged down by some really bad elements. It really is a case of good ideas but poor execution. Is it boring? Well, with that +3 dodge bonus, I have to say yes, it is a very tedious affair. If you house rule that away, it's not too bad, but with it, I have no choice but to rank this game as tedious.
Well, I'm bored of reviewing this game now. Bye.